Thank you, Doctor, and thank you, viewers. As the Doctor said, we need to start the trade from within and then encourage, cross-border trade on the African continent. As I said, if we trade among ourselves, wealth remains here, and we on our own can help alleviate poverty in our communities. Thank you, Doctor, once again for coming on our show. We hope to host you again on some other business issues. Thank you for watching, and stand by for the next session. You're welcome back from the break. We'll move on to the next session where we review business issues across the African continent. And I have here with me Mr. Charles Amoakwata, a research analyst who will do the reviews with me. Welcome, Charles.
Thank you.
To Business Television Africa. Now, the commissioner of the GRA has been commenting about their inability to raise the expected revenues for the country. Even though they were 13.5% below the target, that's also much higher than what they did last year. So my question to you is it really important for him to be complaining? And what will be your own assessment of the tax revenue of this country?
I think that he has a concern to actually complain, because if you set a target and then you are not able to meet the target, there is an implication to it. So I think that he has every right to actually complain. And as a country, or even as a corporate body, you need revenue to actually run your business. So if you run short of your targets, it means it's a challenge. So I think that in spite of the fact that they were able to outperform the previous year's target, I think the most important thing is about what is ahead of you. So if you set a future target and you're not able to meet it, you have a cause to actually complain. And as a nation, if you read that report, recent report that actually came out, it is said that about only 2 million people are paying tax in the country. If you compare it to a population of about 25 million, if you do assume that only 10 million people are actually working, and out of the 10 million people who are working, only 2 million are really paying tax, you can really imagine that the tax burden is really going to be a serious challenge on the few people who are really paying the tax. So I think that going forward, there's the need for government to come up with strategies to see how best the tax net can actually be enlarged, to rope in a lot of people into the tax net so that the tax burden can be reduced and government to be able to get a lot of revenue to meet its responsibilities for the people of Ghana.
In your opinion, are there any specific things you think the government can do in order to improve its tax revenue?
I believe that this issue has been mentioned time and time again, that we need to get a lot of people in. The formal sector is very small, but there are a lot of people who are outside the formal sector, that is the informal sector, who are working. And the number of people there are comparably larger than those in the formal sector. So if the government can really have its acts together and then actually strategize and plan very well to make sure that it formalizes the informal sector, so that some of these people who are working can be properly addressed and identified, to also make their contribution, to the national, cake. I think it will be better for all of us.
Now, when we go to Nigeria, just last week, the governor of the central bank was removed from office. The question I ask is, what is the impact of that decision on, for example, their currency, the Naira? What about the stock market? Are there any implications of such a move?
Definitely, there will be an implication on the various markets in the country. If you look at the stock market, the FX market, the money markets, they will all be affected, because these markets are actually moved by information. So if there is a good information, the sentiment will be better. If there's a bad information, the risk will be higher. So there's no two ways that it hasn't actually affected the market. Since some of us heard this news, that was last week, and the reports we've been reading from the stock market and then the FX market and the money market indicates that things are really going on the downside. stock prices are coming down, the index is actually moving downward. The Nigerian naira is actually depreciating against the major currencies. And now if you also look at the bond market, yields are actually really going up, which means that rates are actually coming down. You understand? So definitely it has had an impact on the economy. And Nigeria is a big economy, among the African countries. So definitely there is an impact of the suspension of the central bank governor of Nigeria.
On your own, what is your opinion, general, about the removal of Mr. Lamido Sanusi?
When I actually heard the news, it came to me as a surprise because, he is one of the best central, bank governors within the continent of Africa. He actually received an award from, the state of Nigeria, Federal Republic of Nigeria, and then even outside the country, he's also received a number of awards as one of the best, central bank, governors, on the continent. So, if you look at his term, his term is due to end in June. You understand? And if you look at the period he's been in office, he has actually, introduced a lot of reforms into the Nigerian financial market. After the 2008 financial crisis, a lot of, bad things actually happened to the banking sector in Nigeria. But since he came to office, he actually introduced a lot of reforms, which actually helped to actually revise the financial sector. And most of the Nigerian banks are now in a very good footing. Their capitalization, they have a very big capital base, management, and then in terms of board structure and all that. And they've started making profit for the past 2 or 3 years. You understand? If you look at their performance, the likes of UBA and GT, and then the rest, they've been making significant profit, and this can be attributed to some of the measures that were introduced by, this big man, Sanusi.
Now, if we go to Kenya, the central bank has also issued a new directive where banks are to reclassify their non-performing loan assets or non-performing loan portfolios. My question to you is, these non-performing loan assets, what are their impacts on banks? And do you think we need to do anything as a country, Ghana I mean, in that regard?
Definitely we need to do something because non-performing loan is actually a risk factor, okay, to every banking institution. So the aim of every bank is to make sure that their bad loan is actually brought down to the barest minimum. Because what it means is that if you give out loan, and then at the end of the day, you are not able to collect a large portion of the loan, it goes bad. And if it goes bad, who does it affect? It affects the shareholders, and it also affects your profit. So in a situation, if you live in an economy where banks are recording huge non-performing loan, then as a central bank, you need to be very much concerned to make sure that this kind of risk is actually, reduced. So I think that if the Central Bank of Kenya, they've actually identified this trend and then seen that it's actually a risk to the economy, and they've actually come up with new measures to make sure that this trend is actually curtailed, I think the better for the country.